Hey guys, Christian here. Welcome to the Life Uncharted Podcast. Today's guest is Jax Mariash. Jax is probably one of the first people I met when I moved to Park City. She owns Stoked Roasters on Main Street. She's an ultra marathoner, does all these crazy stage races, and is probably one of the most happy, positive, fun people I know, and definitely one of the people that makes this town feel like home. So excited to have her in. I know people have been saying, where are the women at? Well, here's the first one. It's a good one. So I hope you enjoyed this. Jax, welcome to the Life Uncharted Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's about time you had a lady on here.
I know, right. I was telling you that. We launched a couple days ago, and a lot of positive feedback. But the one thing I heard consistently was like, it's all dudes.
Yeah, where are the ladies at?
The ladies I know are very busy.
We are. We have stacked schedules.
I feel like all of my friends, but for whatever reason, especially the women, have like 8 facets to their life, and I have to like slot in somewhere and like
Pretty
get a
much.
time that works. Where the guys are like, yeah, I'm just mountain biking. So thanks for joining.
You're welcome.
And we were talking, you're running 43 miles tomorrow.
Correct.
So 43, if I'm doing the math, that's more than a marathon.
Yes, that is
26.
more.
It's like almost 2 marathons.
Yeah, close to.
Why?
So I am actually bringing in tow a 13-year-old girl named Hannah Letzger. She's local here.
It's like your cousin or what?
She's kind of become a little sister. But
I've seen pictures. You guys are wearing the same clothes and...
Yeah, we twin a lot. So for this race, we're actually going to like twin all the way down to our nail polish. Which
Hands
of
and
course will be pink.
Pink, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hands for sure. Pink, feet, I tend to have different hues because I have some black toenails.
So do you need like a thicker nail polish for your paint to cover up the...
Yeah,
I mean, you've got to lose... Do you lose a lot of toenails?
You know, it depends on the person and your foot strike. I just end up getting black toes and then they fall
I've
off.
never gotten one running a marathon, but I do get them when I'm ski touring.
Oh, yeah.
Like kicking the front of the boot.
Yeah, maybe your
I'd
boots
take off
are
my
too
shoe
small.
right now and show you. Well, that's an interesting story. I ordered boots, and then the guys at one shop were like, those are way too big. And so I got a smaller size, and I'm like, those feel a little tight.
Yeah.
But it was too late, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we could compare feet. Mine are pretty gnarly.
I bet they are. So, wait. 13-year-old. You're pacing at 13. Don't pacers usually just do like 10 miles, not 43?
Technically, if you're a pacer, yes. So...
But that means a pacer's job is to keep the pace.
Yeah.
So that means you're pretty fast if you can hold a pace for 43 miles and just be confident with that.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, Hannah and I are more just like have chosen an ultra marathon that we're running together.
How far is that one?
And, well, this one tomorrow.
Oh, this
43.
is it. Okay.
And so this will be Hannah's first ultra ever. And from the research that we've done, she actually, if she completes it, she will be the youngest woman ever to do that distance.
No way.
Yeah, so she will make history tomorrow, which is super exciting. And
Are you gonna have like news crews around and stuff, or what?
we have some buzz out there going right now, and so we'll see what happens and kind of throw all the media on the back end, make sure it really happens.
Wow.
And so we're really, really excited about it.
But isn't 13 like too young to be cranking out
43
miles?
So there are, of course, naysayers out there and people that will strike concern, and that's where you just have to know that Hannah is a bit of a prodigy, and her body somehow is handling it really, really well. And so we actually have had this guy named Dr. Testa has cleared her, and she is physically been handling the training just fine. And,
how does he know she's okay? What kind of tests do they do?
You can look at your bone structure, you can do stability tests, strength tests, things like that. Her body is going through normal teenage stuff just fine, and and her nutrition is really, really great. And it's
what grade
also
is she 8th grade?
She'll go into 8th grade this year. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I remember in middle school we had to run the mile.
And you're like, this is torture.
I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it.
But what is cool is that, I mean, I didn't do ultras when I was 13, but I was a runner since I was 5. And so for me, it's really cool. It's like a mini Jax. And it's really neat to see a lot of myself and Hannah. And we've there's a really cool sisterhood, I think, that's developed
between
the two of us. Her dad, I think, either Googled me or found out about me through Park City Running Company. And he wanted someone to be a beacon of light for her in the running world, and especially in the ultra running segment. And so we met each other about 10 months ago, and I helped pace her through Xterra National Championships. And then
How'd she do there?
She won.
She won?
Yeah, and then she was 14th female.
Overall?
Yeah, she was
13.
she was so good. I still got third in my age division.
And you were pacing her, and you got third.
Yeah, which is like, that's crazy. And for example, we just did a half marathon. We did the Utah Valley Half Marathon a few weeks ago just to see where she was at. And her half marathon PR, she PR'd by 25 minutes, and she ran 1:42:35.
And what's like her marathon time? Do you have a time for her there?
So last year was her first marathon ever. She did the Mid-Mountain Marathon, which is a trail marathon, and did it in 6 hours with 3,500 feet of vert.
Oh.
So like this race is 6,800 feet of climbing probably. And it's brutal. There's some rotten trails out there. So Hannah actually...
It's over a mile of vert.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot for a 42-mile race.
I don't know if people realize the effect of elevation when you're running, and then the effect of vertical plus elevation.
And, it's hotter up here, too, which we're lucky now
Drier.
with maybe a 70-degree day, which is a miracle.
Right.
So Hannah has actually, through sections over 3 different training weekends, she's done the whole course. So she can go into it with confidence of knowing, like, okay, I know how long this hill is going to be. There's 2 huge hills. One is Flying Dog. I don't know if you've ever biked that. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty massive. And then there's another one that goes up to Big Mountain Pass and then beyond to Bald Mountain. And it's, I think, 2,000 feet straight up. Oh, God. And she just trots along like no big deal. And I think...
What does she weigh?
I'm guessing she doesn't weigh 100 pounds yet. Because she really wants to weigh 100 pounds to do this one water slide or something. I forget what it is, and she's not. I'm like, put weights in your swimsuit or something.
That just shows like how much of a kid she still is.
Yeah, and I forget.
Her biggest concern while she's being this elite athlete is that she wants to get to 100 pounds to go on a very specific water slide.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's epic. And I forget about it because over the past 10 months, the coolest part has been her mental development. Mm-hmm. And how strong she is in the mind. And that is what's going to get her through tomorrow.
Is that the difference always, though, with that?
It is. With ultras, for sure. But that's, I think, why you don't see as many younger athletes in ultras, because you have to have a very, very mature mind, because shit's going to hit the fan out there, and it's how you're going to deal with it. And she has built this powerful mind that deals with adversity in some of the ways that I've learned how to, which is like you just have to like change your perspective, or if like you're scared about the distance, you have to play games with how to pick off the miles. And so she has this huge mental toolkit that I think that is what is going to push her ahead of some of maybe the best women tomorrow.
That's so true. I remember several years ago I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, nice.
And we had this kid with, I won't say his name because this is like, he was young, but he was, I think the youngest ever to climb Kili was 7 and he was 8. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a rarity.
Yeah.
And he'd climbed a bunch of other mountains, super skilled, knew how to tie the knots, knew how to, like that was his whole thing. He was going to be a climber. He was going to climb Everest. And since then he's climbed a ton of peaks, but at the time he's 8 years old. And I remember it was like day 2. I just remember him looking at his dad and be like, Dad, my legs don't work. Wow. And like, we had to like kind of, I mean, he's a kid, right? And he's just like, I can't do it. And then I remember the summit day, they left a couple hours ahead of me and my partner because they were going to be moving slower. And I just remember we caught him in like 20 minutes and he was, he pooped his pants.
Yeah.
And a poor kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
he can't even comprehend what he's getting into. And this is a hard climb for most people.
Yeah. And I think that's where you have to know the limit, and to answer your question earlier about naysayers or if this is good for Hannah, if we ever hit something like that, she's out. She's taking a break.
Right.
And we're backpedaling. So like Hannah is rare as well, where she climbed Grand Teton when she was 7. And
she climbed the Grand Teton when she was 7?
Yeah, it took 18 hours and she crushed it. And so, that's where you tap into stuff too. Like if she's having a really successful day tomorrow and she's starting to feel tired or like, oh my God, this is so long, or holy cow, we still have 3 hours left. That was 18.
Right.
You know, this will be like 8 to 10.
Right.
And you're like, okay, that's not so bad. So it's like tricking your mind. You know, it's like, that's the biggest thing I learned in the deserts is when you're getting crushed or you're hitting a rock bottom, how do you flip out of it? Because you can't have any kind of drama. And then it changes your world when you come home too. And adversity is totally different. It
makes everything easier.
Oh yeah, well people freak out about stuff and you're like, come on. Like that's like crisis scale number 1 when it's like they think it's an 8.
I find the same thing is I've always told people like your opportunity is directly related to your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And the bigger your comfort zone is, the more opportunity there is. Because some people like if you can't run a mile, there's so many things you can't do, right?
Right.
And that's just a physical standpoint. Like if you're an ultra marathoner, your car breaks down 7 miles from town. It's like, sweet.
I'll run home.
Yeah, just run. For other people, it's like,
What's
I
wrong
think
with
I'm
us?
going to die.
Yeah.
know? So I think that's such an important thing. And that's what I know about you is I don't think I've ever seen you not smiling. Or even when things are really bad, you're probably like your eyes might show, but you're still laughing. You're like, this is really bad. Because I think you know that like there's another side to it that you're going to come out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you really do. I think when you have so many experiences of adversity in your life, you come out of that and you really realize that it will end. It's going to end, especially if you have positive affirmations and you believe that it will and you focus on that, it's going to work out.
Right.
But you can't fester in that foggy area or it's just going to get gnarly.
So what's your like go-to tool when you're really hitting the bottom?
I guess an example was I was in China and it was 130 degrees and we had a 50-mile day, 20-pound pack on your back.
They don't cancel a race at that point?
No. No.
Okay. Continue.
And,
is it smoggy too?
No, there was a dust storm later that day. But so we're running across the Black Gobi Desert and my shoes started to melt and I had puked 6 times at that point. And if the race staff catches you puking, they're going to cut you because something's going wrong with your system. But for me, it's like 50-mile day, rest day, 10K to the finish, and I'm winning the thing by 11.5 hours. So I'm like, for me, I'm making history. I'm in 2nd place, and I feel like I'm going to die. I'm puking all over the place, and my shoes started melting, and so it created, which I could show you the remains 2 years later, it created these like blisters on the bottom of my feet, like balls of my feet. And so they're just burning and I'm hot.
You still have these blisters 2 years later?
Yeah, I have calluses that keep causing issues. So we'll have to figure out what to do about that. But so we ended up, the race crew came by and they were like, Jax, you're making history. And I'm like wiping vomit off my mouth. And I'm like,
well, you were 11 and a half hours ahead of the next person?
Yeah, in this particular race.
Why don't you just sit down for an hour and have some water?
Because you just want to get it over with. And at that point, I was making history with this long day. And so I just wanted to keep going. And so everything is against me. My heart rate's 145 and I'm like shuffling because it's so hot. That's something that'll happen. And so I just put on my iPod and I put on Shoop by Salt and Pepper. And I played it 19 times. And I just
That sounds like
singing.
a worst day to me. Shoop?
Yeah.
That's
dude,
the song?
Yeah, like from like...
Of every song in the world, you're going to play Shoop?
Yeah, because I knew like every word and I was like basically like dancing along.
Is that still your go-to right now?
Karaoke for sure. But...
I wonder what mine would be.
It's not my like, what music do you listen to? Like this, but it really helped out there. And so I just kept playing it and playing it and playing it. I think it's just, I know the words, it's super positive and it's like, I
don't even know what the words are.
Oh.
I should have you sing it for me.
It's good. It's
Okay.
like, here I go, here I go, here I go. Okay, girls, what's the weakness? Hey,
Oh, I know
okay,
that song,
then
yeah.
chilling, minding my business. I won't bother them.
We
with
got all day.
anymore.
You can. I just realized we totally buried the lead, though. We started by talking about you're pacing a 13-year-old and then you're running in China. So
Yeah.
for everybody that's like driving their car and now going,
Who
who's
is this
psycho?
girl?
Let's take a step back.
Okay.
Who's Jax?
Jax. So I am an entrepreneur of sorts, and then I'm also a professional ultra runner. And on that side, I started, my crazy meter went to the realm of, I was the first woman in the world to do 5 self-supported desert races all over the world under the 4 Deserts race series. So the traditional 4, if you do that in 1 year, is called a Grand Slam. And so
Where are these 4 races?
Chile, China, Africa, and Antarctica.
Okay.
And so it's over the roughest terrain in the world, and you have to carry everything on your back to survive. So that's your food, safety equipment, sleeping supplies, absolutely everything except water, a tent to share with up to 9 others. And then as far as support, if you're like dying, they'll help you.
Well, hold on. So, like professional Ironman races, they can put their food out at aid stations, right?
Oh, no.
Their own little baggie with a number.
They can, yeah.
You can't even do that.
No, all your food is in your back.
Over how many days?
7. And so the minimum requirement is 2,000 calories a day. And so women usually typically bring around 2,100, 2,200. So imagine running 155
body
miles.
Burns like
You're starving.
3,500 calories a day doing nothing.
You're absolutely starving. So you lose around 12 pounds during one race.
I need this.
And so I ended up, 12 to 15 pounds. China, it was 19 because I was scared to eat their food, and then I got stranded there and some other things. And so if you do all those in 1 year, that's a Grand Slam. If you do 5, that's called a Grand Slam Plus. In the year that I had done it, no woman had ever done it. And so I wanted to empower women. I wanted to inspire the masses to get outside.
What year was this?
2016.
So 2016, this race had been going on for how many years?
I think since 2008.
So let's call it 8 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
There's always been 100% men.
That had done the Grand Slam Plus. There had only been 3 men that had been able to accomplish that.
Only 3 men in those 8 years had actually done all 4 races.
5.
5 races.
Yeah.
So this is a series of 5 races.
So it's a series of 4.
Women would enter and just not finish, or was it just kind of a boys' club?
Kind of a boys' club. I'm not sure if any women tried in the past to do all 5 in 1 year. But
Women would do like 1, but not all of them.
Yeah, there at that point had been 13 or so women that had done 4, which is a Grand Slam. And then that additional roving race, it doesn't have to be a desert. So in our case, it was in Sri Lanka, which is like jungles that you're bushwhacking through, and it's 99% humidity and 99 degrees.
Wow.
And so like kicked off the 10.5 months of racing. And so in that race, first day, first day, first 12K, I had puked 6 times, crawled up a trail to the checkpoint, twisted my knee, and gone off course by 3K. And I was like, what the heck am I doing?
This is the very first race of 5.
Yeah. And I'm like sitting there in between like tea farms, looking around, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I signed myself up for? Like, I am screwed. And so I ended up, I think it was 3rd place, but at the end of the day, I like lived off Zofran every day. Around like, it's a nausea medicine. So around like checkpoint 2 or checkpoint 3, I was like not with it. And they would give me 1 pill. And so on day 3, I was back in 2nd place, and we were bushwhacking through a jungle, and I sprained my ankle. And so I hobbled through the rest of that day, and I ended up 2nd overall in that race. And then the next 4, I ended up winning them and becoming the female world champion that year. Christian's breathless.
I don't even know where to start. I'm just thinking about, so how many total miles is this in 5 races?
Let's see, 155 times 5.
They're each 155 miles.
Yeah, so I just noticed like 1,250K.
Okay, and how much of a break is there between these races?
It was in 10.5 months. So between the first two, I had, I think, 8 weeks. Then it was like 6 weeks and 13 weeks and then 5. And
so when you finish one of these races, you're destroyed. Do you come home and just not do anything for 2 weeks and then slowly ramp up, or what's the recovery?
I always wanted it to be 1 week. And so I take 1 week totally off, and I was a zombie. And then you're trying to eat as much as you can because you're trying to gain that weight to lose it again. So it's like really jockeying with your metabolism, which I think my body is still not quite figured itself out 2 years later. So that's one of the...
Dr. Eric Meyer, that was on the podcast in our first episode, when he trained for K2, he put 25 pounds of muscle on.
Wow.
Simply because he knew it'd just peel it off him when he got up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
These environments will just destroy a human body.
Especially altitude in that case.
Yeah.
So
this weekend's a breeze then, whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's funny how fast you can.
I thought that was tough. So you're eating like 2,000 calories a day.
Out there, yeah, I would bring 2,100.
And what is it? I mean, I'm interested in survival, obviously.
Yes.
So
why is that? No, I'm just kidding.
What are you carrying? What are you eating?
So I was sponsored at the time by Expedition Foods, which they were experts in pretty simple ingredients and high caloric, low gram foods. So I would have mac and cheese actually every single night. And it was freeze-dried.
The reason mac and cheese works is because...
I thought it tasted good.
Well, that's something people don't think about is when you mountain climb, they're like, people are like, oh, should I get these certain... It's like, eat Snickers. Like, whatever you want to eat, take it.
Oh, so I did another one of these crazy races in Morocco in April. And I was really nerding out on calories per gram because it's like the Super Bowl of stage racing. It's called Marathon de Szabla, and it's like the most competitive in the world. It's part of the Ultra Trail World Tour. And so I had, for breakfast, I had Oreos because calorie per gram is legit.
I have Oreos for breakfast too.
It's so good. So
I didn't run those. Is that a problem?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like calories in, calories out.
Yeah, right.
But so I had 4 Oreos for breakfast. At Stoked, we have instant coffee. So I'd have 1 coffee. And then I would have like a few almonds. And I literally, by the end, was like... Oh, like, because the Oreos get kind of crushed, and you're like, I think that was like 4, but I really want more. And you're just starving, and you want food so bad. And no one, I mean, you're not sharing. You're not allowed to share. That's cheating.
Do you try to, like, fill your body up before the race? Like, you don't want to pig out too much because then you're super sluggish, but is there a week before where you're just eating a pack of Oreos a day just to get the calories in?
You are. Like, I try to go in a little heavy, but I mean, for example, in Morocco, I want to be fast from the start. And so I'm worried about being really fit and lean.
What about water?
Water is the one thing that they'll provide. It was actually interesting in Morocco, though, they rationed it. So you had to ration it. Whereas in the 4 Deserts Race Series, you could have a lot of water. And so you were pretty flexible with it. But in Morocco, it literally was like you would finish and they'd give you 4 bottles, and that had to like last you till tomorrow morning at the next, like the first checkpoint. And so you'd literally be like, the water part was really hard. We were lucky that it was around 100, 120 degrees every day. And sometimes it gets up to 140. And so people are just chugging, and then they run out, and then there's a lot of dropouts because of dehydration.
Right.
And so we were really lucky that the dropout rate, I think, was only 10%. It's usually 20 or 30.
I mean, the general rule of thumb is like a gallon of water a day per person just doing nothing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really was a lot, though. Like, we had 12 liters of water a day that was given to us. But I drank it all. Like, every last sip.
Oh, my God.
And it's scary. Like, when you have to ration, you freak out a little bit. I mean, it's just all of a sudden you're like, oh, my God, that's all the Oreos I can have? Am I going to starve? And you just have to know you're going to be fine. And it's all in your mind, right? And so then it goes back to mind games and everything. It's about the mind.
That's really interesting when, we sell these survival kits and there's 2,400 calories in it. And one of the things we get all the time is people saying, that's not enough food. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Travis Haley the other day, who is a Blackwater guy, Force Recon Marine. He's like, I go like a week without food on missions.
Yeah.
And I know from like my previous job that the human body has, when it's topped off, you have like 3,000 calories of glycogen.
Yeah.
And then you have like 30,000 calories
of like fat stores, right?
No matter who you are, at least.
Well, in my races, you're trying to access that. So
Right.
that's exactly what's happening is you can't ever go above threshold or you're going to mess it up.
That's an interesting thing I talk to a lot of people about is like zone 2 training.
Yeah.
Running at a level where your body can convert fat. So it encourages it to convert fat. Because if you're sprinting, your body will just go, can't do it. And then
I'm
you
going
bonk.
to eat all my sugar.
Yeah, and then you bonk when your sugar's gone. Because you
Yeah.
don't have a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
But if you can train your body and slowly, like gradually climb that,
Yeah.
like that's what triathletes do, right? Which you
Yep.
have experience in is
Yep.
you don't want to be sucking goose all day because that's hard for the stomach.
Yeah. I mean, even, and it's funny because I was talking to Pro Bar, is one of my sponsors, and I was talking to them earlier, and one of the guys was like, I just don't get, like, what are you eating out there if, like, calories per gram is so important? And so I have Pro Bar Bolt shoes, but I don't just want the sugar. And so because I literally am fat burning the whole way and I want my body to become efficient. And so that training, right, is you're improving your running economy. And so if you get out on those long days, you need fat. Like you need to eat fat too. And so what I'll do is I'll mix, I'm like, it's called the Jax mix. And you put in the bolts, but then you put in almonds and then like
And the bolts are like just like gummies.
Yeah, they're
right?
kind of like Pro Bar's version of like, you know, Cliff Bar blocks or everyone's version
Right.
of like a chew.
Right.
And then you add coconut shavings. And so it's like this mixture of like fat and sugar.
Some fiber.
Yeah, and it's highly caloric, right? So you can just like, I just grab like handfuls every hour and shove it in. And
Sounds
it's
like
really
you make
good.
a signature line of products with Pro Bar.
That's what I told him. I'm like, it's going to be a Jax mix.
I had a Pro Bar last night at 2 a.m. My dog
At 2
woke me up
a.m.
and I wanted to go to the bathroom and I hadn't yet had dinner.
You're like,
I was like,
nom, nom, nom.
Jax gave me some Pro Bars.
Oh, yeah.
That's all the food I had in my house. I actually fell asleep with half of it on my chest. So I woke up this morning, I'm like, man, wonder why I'm single.
Yeah, that would probably, you know, maybe like if you had the right girl, you know, she'd roll over and be like,
Eat the rest of it. My dog
dating
would if I'd let
criteria
him.
for a Christian shop. You have to
Finish my
eat.
Pro Bar when I fall asleep. Oh my gosh, I'm getting weirder as it gets longer. So you mentioned Stoked. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
And I thought I was looking back at a lot of my guests, and all of them have like 3 lives at the same time, and you're no
Well,
exception.
so do you.
Yeah, but maybe that's a common thread. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed with these people. And like today, you were like, "You want to go for a run at noon?" And I'm like, "I can't." I'm like, "How about for the podcast?" And you're like, "Can't." And you sent me your schedule,
Which has gotten worse, by the way.
But it's like 10 things blocked out
Yeah.
throughout the day, and I just find the whole world likes to say they're busy, right? I find myself saying it. I don't like to say that.
Yeah.
But some people are busy, and some people are like
Busy.
really busy. But then those people aren't the ones that are saying they're busy.
Yeah.
They're just getting it done.
It's true, actually. That's very true.
So tell me, I want to ask about that, but tell me what Stoked is for people that don't know.
So Stoked is, we're a craft coffee company. So we compete with the best in the world, I'd say, in the craft coffee world, but we are different in that we market ourselves as an outdoor company. So my whole mission with Stoked has been to inspire the outdoor adventurer to get outside with a premium cup of coffee.
Cool. And you started this in Hood River?
Yeah, I did in 2014. So we just passed our 4-year anniversary.
And you just opened one here.
I did, yeah, on
And then
Main
you
Street.
have stuff you sell online too, right? Like
Yeah.
instant coffee and everything else.
Yeah, so we have all of our whole bean is available online, and then we have an instant coffee that we launched in medium and dark roast that you can get online too. And then we set up a subscription program so folks can do kind of like the Dollar Shave Club. So it's like you can order it every week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks. You can change it whenever you want. So it's a customized subscription program for folks that are interested in that. And then beyond that, we have a wholesale business around 43 accounts right now. and they're all over the country and into Canada. And then we are trying to push into office coffee, especially right now, focusing on outdoor companies. So that's part of my busy schedule today.
Well, you keep us pretty well caffeinated at Uncharted.
I do.
And it's really good.
Yeah, you just got a drop of coffee the other day.
Like, that's a big bag of coffee beans.
It is.
I have to make sure my dog doesn't get it. It'd be trouble.
I have to make sure whenever I visit, I can get the proper coffee fix.
Right. So you actually make the beans.
Yeah, so green beans.
The
Yeah, so green beans are shipped from 15 different origins in Central America, South America, Indonesia, and Africa. And then they go to our corporate headquarters in Hood River, and we roast right there on site. We have a 25 pounds small batch coffee roaster. And
are you the head roaster too?
Technically, you could say I am, but I've had 2 folks go through an apprenticeship program under me. There's pretty much like 8-month programs to get super dialed. And so
you mean you don't have time to roast coffee between all your races?
Whenever I go over there, I like to dip in and do it. But this guy, Nick, is our roaster right now.
It looks like this really cool romantic process.
It really is.
I didn't drink coffee till a handful of years ago. And I just feel like I know more and more people that are in this space. Yeah. But how did you get into it?
I have dreamed of having a coffee business since I was 11. And I was, believe it or not, my summer camp was basically like a summer job, and I was the coffee runner, and it was like, here's a bunch of money, go get us all coffee. And I'm like, stuff is gross. And the guy's like, look, Jax, there's money in there for you, like, go get yourself a mocha. And I tried it. It was so good. And so then I started having like blended drinks and, you know, all the fancy sugary stuff. And then I started to kind of nerd out just on coffee. And just some single origin coffees, different origins. And
what's single origin means it all came from the same field?
Yeah, so like if I gave you a single origin bag of espresso, that means maybe it just came from Guatemala, which is actually a really good single origin espresso. And if it was a blend, we're blending different origins together. So like our espresso is 3 different origins, and we're picking those ones based off of, you roast espresso on usually a medium roast, but you're picking those certain blends to have a flavor that's going to be consolidated down to a little coffee puck that you're brewing it through. So we've been really picky about what beans we use to create that really classic espresso flavor. It's like an art.
It is an art. There's a lot of coffee makers.
Yeah, there's a lot.
How do you differentiate? I mean, there's branding, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of it is our niches who we're focusing on, and it being the outdoor industry. And from there, we have seasonal blends that we really trick out and get picky about the different origins that are in it. And so we do a spring stoke, fall, winter, and summer stoke. And we launch it on the solstice every time.
So you just launched one?
Yeah, so this one has a lot of blueberry notes to it, and it's super fun and fruity, which in the summer you want something bright. It's kind of like wine, really.
Sure.
When it comes down to it, even when you cup coffee, it's the same process. Like you're literally slurping with the spoon and spitting it out, and I just slurp it because I want to drink it and get wired. Like the other day I was like, gosh, I probably have like 8 to 10 shots of espresso a day.
You said that when you walked in today.
Yeah.
You had 8 shots of espresso today.
Yeah, I can't believe that, but I do. I have a espresso machine at home, which is like...
You have a bit of a tolerance built up.
I think so, because like the other day I had 4 shots probably before like 8 a.m. and I was back in bed for an hour.
Do you have a time where you cut off so you can sleep at night?
No, I'll sleep.
You'll sleep fine.
Yeah. That's why I had to make instant coffee, because if I have to go out in the desert and be withdrawn from it, I'll have coffee headaches.
Oh, yeah. I tried to cut it out the other week. And
Don't do it.
Pounding headaches. I'm just going to double down.
Yeah.
Can you make coffee that has more caffeine in it? Or does all coffee have the same amount of caffeine?
I think I don't know if by origin it could vary a little bit, but it really just all has the same amount. So what happens though is when you're roasting coffee, it's different than you would think, where a lighter roast is actually going to have more caffeine. So your breakfast blends and things like that, that's why they're breakfast blends. But they're also like more zesty and fruity and have a lot more going on, because all that flavor of the actual coffee bean is still in it. when you get to dark roast or French roast, you're actually roasting out the flavor and the caffeine. And so when you get to a French roast, which is like the top of the meter, it's going to be like that super oily coffee. You're actually picking pretty bland origins. Like we usually do Honduras and Peru and things like that. And because you're almost roasting out all the fun flavor.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's
really.
Like...
But it's like sometimes it's the hardest one to do because you're at the very top of the heat meter of when you don't want to burn it. And a lot of people over roast it, and then it tastes really bitter. And so French roast really becomes an art of pulling the beans out perfectly so that you're not getting that burnt taste.
It's counterintuitive.
Oh, totally.
You think a light roast would have less caffeine.
A lot of people
like
think
black
that.
Just
they're like, give me the
aggressive.
dark stuff because, that's going to make me wired. And I'm like, I'll give you a breakfast blend, actually. What's fun?
What's the caffeine difference, though, between a dark roast and a light roast? Is it twice as much?
I don't know. That's a good question. Get back to you on that one.
Get back to me on that one.
Yeah, but it's definitely different. And, it's funny how often folks think it's a flip-flop because you're like, give me dark, I'm going to be wired. And
so how many times does your athletic training, mentally or whatever, come into play as a business owner?
In what respect?
Like, I mean, there are challenges in every aspect of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can train yourself as an athlete to overcome an extra hour of running because you've been there before, right?
Yeah.
It makes you tougher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are there times when your athletic background helps support what you're doing in a business?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I know as a young business, there's ups and downs all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like every chart you see on Instagram, it's like a sine wave of, I'm the best, I'm the worst.
Yeah.
I'm the best, I'm the worst.
That's why it's like hard to be on it sometimes. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier about that, of like the effects of social media. And this goes for running and entrepreneurship, where you can get sucked into that and you get like a little bit jealous. And but it's really interesting, and I've seen this in a lot of respects when it comes to business or entrepreneurship, where growing up as an athlete, and I mean you see this now too, is that you build all these skills to be really good in business, whether it's time management or pushing for that extra meter, or maybe even just using your sport as a way of a thinking outlet, or a like hour break to get away from how hard business can be sometimes, especially entrepreneurship, because I think at the end of the day, a lot of small businesses fail because of how hard you have to work. And it is
completely agree.
And people are like, screw it, like I'm just going back to like corporate America or whatever, because it's a lot easier. But at the end of the day, if you put in that hard effort, the reward's going to be monumental. And I think that goes for endurance running, or it goes for everything. If you just push super hard, you're gonna be a world champion, or your business will explode. If day in and day out, it's those positive affirmations and like clicking away at the miles, clicking away at the business stuff, and giving up some social life a little bit. Mm-hmm. And more, it's been that case, especially even this year. I've had to make a lot of sacrifices in other areas of my life if I want the stuff to blow up.
Right. What's the quote? It's like, an entrepreneur is somebody who's willing to work 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else.
Yeah, it's true.
It sounds silly, but it's true. I just think that those 80 hours just are a lot more fun.
They are, because you're doing what you love.
Right.
And if you believe in it, it's like field of dreams. If you build it, they will come, right? But if you wake up, and that's why for me, mind work is so important. So I meditate every day. And a lot of that is just this, when was it? The Secret came out, and it was like this big deal. But I believe in that philosophy. That if
I never read that book. What's the philosophy?
So the whole...
It's just doubling down on your beliefs.
I guess. But it's like the whole premise is that if you put out into the universe all these affirmations that you want to happen in your life, and every day you wake up and you believe those things will happen, and you actually imagine what that would be like, and you make forward strides toward it every single day, Like, okay, what can I do in my athlete life today to blow it up somehow and make it get here? And what can I do in my business life to make that happen? I believe that if you just keep working on it every day and keep throwing out into the universe, that's what's going to happen. It happens. And some crazy stuff's happened in my world, I feel like, in that regard.
But here's what I would say about that. I just thought of, so Michael Bland was my drummer when I was a musician for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Mike was Prince's drummer. He played with all these guys, right? He was kind of like his email is, I won't tell the back end of it so people don't email him, but his handle was Ebony Rhythm Buddha.
Nice.
But he's like this big black guy. He's like, I love this guy, you know? He was like my mentor for years.
Yeah.
And we didn't fly anywhere. We'd drive to all these gigs. You spend hours in the car, and Mike would sit shotgun, and dudes would be sleeping in the back, and I'd be driving. And like, I have a lot of things that he's told me over the years, but one was, I was like, Khrushchev, everybody gets what they want, man. He's like, what some people don't realize is what they want is to play video games all day.
It's true.
I love that.
It's true.
Because what you were saying is like, put it out in the universe, but then what you followed up with was taking steps to make it happen too. Right. So many people go, I want to run a marathon.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, well, you have to prepare for that and train for that.
Yeah.
Like, well, I want to run a marathon. Well, do you want to go run today? No.
Yeah.
Well, then you don't really want to run a marathon.
Exactly.
What you want to do is not run today.
Exactly.
And
that is...
It's so simple, but people...
It's so
hard. I think
hard.
we live in a culture where people just get things. Mm-hmm. They don't have to earn them.
Right. Well, that's, again, where there's a difference of a successful entrepreneur and not.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've seen, like, in all of your endeavors, that there's certain folks out there that are like, I want to have a coffee business, or I want to have all this stuff. And it's like, well, it's not going to be handed to you. And you have to get, like, ruthless.
It ends quickly.
Yeah. And so, like, there's just, like, certain... I mean, you could Google it, it's like characteristics of an entrepreneur, and it's like this hardworking, they're okay with people saying no, they're kind of a renegade and a rebel, they're, not afraid to change, self-confident, like all these different things. And I've watched certain people even that are like, I want to have a coffee shop, guide me. And I'm like, okay, and I'll start to guide. And they're like, well, actually just do it for me. Right. It's like, actually, that's not going to work, and they'll fall out. And so I think it's the same way in sport. If you want to be the queen of the desert, you have to really push to have that title, and you sacrifice a lot for that. And the other pieces that people really don't want to sacrifice either. And it's
competition.
Yeah.
That's what I think about, is every time we're faced with an obstacle, I go, hey, this is just part of the game. It's like when you play video games, the levels get harder.
Right.
When you play high school football and you get into the playoffs, the teams get harder.
Right.
If there's one prize at the end, the people that are the best and want it the most are going to get it.
And it goes back to, speaking of, if you work 80 hours and it's something that you love, you kind of don't even notice.
No.
But so it's interesting. Sometimes I've seen, just through my personal or professional life, that, it's like I had a person once, and they were like, I want to be like really good at this business. And I'm like, you got to hustle, like nonstop. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to hustle. And they just didn't want to hustle. Right. At the end of the day, it was just like, I just want to go ski or whatever. And so it's like, you really, if you want it, you can have it. The universe will give it to you. God will give it to you, whatever you believe in, but you have to literally, like, put the steps forward. All other people can do is open the door. It's
like that quote about luck. Like, luck is opportunity meeting preparedness.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you've been told a lot of times, oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
And it's kind of offensive because...
You're like, really?
Okay, I didn't like, cosmically have this person walk into the room that I met.
Yeah.
But when that person walked in the room, I had enough stuff done already that there was something we could do together.
Exactly.
And it doesn't just, like, my grandpa always used to say, hey, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm like, well, Grandpa, it's who you know, and then it's what you know.
Correct.
Because you could meet somebody that could open massive doors for you, but if you're not ready to walk through them, that guy's going to keep moving.
Yeah, it'll be a miss.
Right. So what advice would you give to somebody who's whether they want to start a coffee shop or a juice bar or run a marathon or whatever. Like, what have been if there's a couple things that really changed the game for you, what are they?
Well, I mean, the biggest one is always your passion meter. Double check it before you're about to jump in. That's really important. I think it's an understanding of how are you willing to sacrifice probably almost everything else in your life to make it happen. If you're going to go down the route of world champion or entrepreneur, and then it's laying out a plan and sticking to it. And obviously there's going to be points where you fall off, but you got to get back on. And the people that get back on, even when it's scary or when they're hurt or everyone's pushing them down or you feel like it's going to be a failure, you have to believe that it's going to be successful and keep going. And it's really hard.
It is.
And my dad taught me something once, and it was, I told this to Hannah's mom yesterday. And it was, I think Hannah's going to have to learn this very, very quickly at a very young age. And that is that it's lonely up top.
Right.
And that's where you start to feel fear of success. And so then,
talk about that. What's the fear? Is that she's going to be isolated as a teenager because
for sure.
She's different?
Yeah, or
because she just has to train a lot and she can't do the kid things with
everyone else. You'll have naysayers, right? I mean, look at gymnasts and things like that. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I think for Hannah, people her age don't understand what she's doing. They're like, she'll come back from Mid-Mountain Marathon and walk into school and be like, here's my medal. I did Mid-Mountain Marathon. And they're like, all by yourself? And she's like, well, yeah, like no big deal. And they're like, they're trying to get around like running 3 miles and how hard that was. And so it's just like what she's doing is so spectacular and like beyond even like understanding. So there's that piece that she's going to stand out of the crowd a little bit with her own generation. Right. But then with our generation looking at her, you know, you are ready, and we experienced it 2 days ago. You're going to have, you'll have the naysayers, right, that are confused about like, is this good for her, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, you're also going to have the women that are like, oh shit, is she going to beat me tomorrow? And they're going to get jealous. Right. And so when Hannah should be getting kudos and high fives from all these women, she will already learn at 13 years old that kind of competition. And with women, it's very interesting. In the running industry, triathlon, when I was a pro triathlete, it was very interesting when you started to maybe blow through another layer of success. All of a sudden, like your training partners, like kind of like went away. And they were like, oh my gosh, you're like kicking my butt in all of our bike workouts now. And it's almost like maybe they like wanted to go train by themselves, or they're like looking at Strava now to like one up your miles. Like, and it gets, women are interesting. Like women and men in sport are different in the sense that like, and I'm like kind of a tomboy, so jockey between the two. But like, let's say we're going out for like a 5K run. I'm like, Krishna, I'm going to kick your ass today.
You do.
You know?
It's fun.
But so it's like boys are like, ha, 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 you know, and they'll kind of like nudge each other. And like competition is open. It's like right there. Girls, I'll stand right next to you and I'll look you up and down, and I'll have this like mind like war with you. Like, and we won't talk at all. Maybe you'll get lucky and I'll give you a little good luck. But like literally, it's like, women are very quiet about their competitive nature, and they get ruthless and kind of catty.
I love putting myself in a situation where I'm the slowest guy in the room. Like, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Because that's how you get better.
But
I think guys are okay with that a little bit too, because I don't know what the difference is.
I would just rather have like all girls just be like, I'm going to try to kick your butt today. And I'll be like, okay, bring it, girl. Right. Versus like, I mean, perfect example is in Morocco. It is such a competitive race, and you're towing the line. You're super scared. It's day one. Everyone's just like nervous. And there are these 2 Spanish girls, and I walked like front of the line and just nudged myself into the front. And literally, I just pushed myself right in front of these two Spanish women, and I'm just like right at the front of the line, and I just like, that's where I wanted to be. And they literally pulled my pack and yanked me behind them. They're like, you go back here. And I was like, oh, I'm like, no, you didn't. And I was just like, okay, cool. And so every morning at MDS, they play Highway to Hell.
Yeah.
And so that's like that's the countdown to go. And so I'm like sitting here, I'm so stoked. Like, I'm in Morocco about to like race in the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And so I finally just like put my arms around those two girls and was like, good luck, girls. Let's go crush
That's so
it.
you in a nutshell. Gosh, that's amazing.
And I'm scared. I'm totally mad at what they did.
Tripped them, let them be in front of me and stuck my foot out.
But it's like bully banner. Right there, you know, and but in this like really kind of like catty way. And it's just, it's super funny, and it's different cultures for sure. And I mean, the girl that was, that people thought was going to win, she was from Russia. And there was like even like some drama there, like between women. And so it's interesting, boys versus girls. I'd rather be a boy.
Well, in the meantime,
I'm a girl.
Crushing all the girls. So. That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Welcome.
So where can people find you to learn more? And then we could talk all day, but it's like, I gotta keep these things at a certain limit, is what I've been told. So
time limit is
I'll have
that.
you come back.
So folks I have a website, wonderwomanjax.com. And they can also find me on Instagram at Jax Mariash.
And how do you spell that?
JaxMariash.
And Stoked is at Stoked Roasters?
Yeah.
And at Stoked PC?
Yeah, correct.
Good coffee. I drink a lot of it.
Yeah, find us, follow us, drink our coffee.
I gotta say, like when I moved here, I think you were one of the first people I met. And I met you through, so Brian Warren's a friend.
Yep.
And then you knew Brian's girlfriend.
Yep.
And
what was the first thing I did?
What's the first thing you did?
Yeah.
I think you gave me coffee.
And a French press. I was like, this is how you need to brew it at home.
Oh, yeah, you gave me a French press. That's right. It has been used a lot. But like, it's like people like you that make this town special, I think, because when somebody new comes in, you connected me to a bunch of people, to Connor and everybody else. And thank you for that. Like, that was really nice.
That's what it's about.
This place feels like home because of people like you. So if people are in Park City, they need to go to Stoked Roasters. They need to ask for Jax.
Yeah.
What drink should they order? Do you have like a special one?
I
had this smoothie and it was like...
Was it the Sasquatch?
Yeah. What's that, like 2,000 calories?
No, it's not that bad.
Really?
It's like non-fat dairy mix, peanut butter. I shouldn't be telling the recipe. How about this? It tastes like a blended Reese's peanut butter cup.
It does.
With espresso
with some bananas
in it.
And espresso in it.
Yeah, it has a double shot in it. There's a woman in Hood River that drives 45 minutes to get a Sasquatch almost every day. That's how legit it is.
Can you make a batch of that for her? Just put it in a freezer bag or something?
I think she likes coming. It's kind of like...
True. It's like Cheers.
Yeah. You know how it is where you just want to like go to your coffee shop and hang out.
That's our culture.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank
and
you,
we're
Christian.
Gonna go, not running tomorrow. You got your good luck at your race.
Thank you.
What do you estimate you're going to finish at?
I think, okay, I'm going to just pin a time. I think it's going to be 8:35.
8 hours and 35 minutes.
That's my guess. I don't know where that came from, but I think that's what she's going to do.
Okay. We're gonna post your time on our Instagram account when we find out.
Okay.
And see how close you are.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
High fives.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jax. There you have it. It was a good time talking to Jax today. Just a reminder, follow us on Instagram at Life Uncharted Podcast, at Uncharted Supply Co. I'm at Christian Schaff, at Jax Mariash, at Park City TV. A big thank you to those guys for having us here. And if you get a chance, subscribe, download our podcast, give us a review. All this stuff helps us keep this going. Hope you enjoyed this as much as we did, and we'll see you next time.